Hello and welcome to the Indiana State Archives Hands-on Archive series, where we take brief close-up look at the records in our collection, talk about their physical qualities, their provenance, and their content. Today we have a very special Christmas episode for you. This is the Santa Claus versus Santa Claus case, or more accurately, Santa Claus Inc., Santa Claus Good Fellowship Inc., Santa Claus Workshops Inc., and Edward Overton versus Santa of Santa Claus Inc. So obviously this is centered around Santa Claus, Indiana, in southern Indiana and Spencer County. Santa Claus chose the name for its post office in the late 19th century when the town was originally named Santa Fe. They found that there was already a Santa Fe post office, so they couldn't use that name. Stories vary as to how they settled on the name Santa Claus, but that's what they ended up with. Eventually, the postmaster there, many years later, started answering letters to Santa that had been sent to their post office. It gained some notoriety there. It was eventually featured on Ripley's Believe It or Not. Supposedly got millions of pieces of mail during the Christmas season. Eventually, people tried to capitalize on the fame of Santa Claus, Indiana. The first of those was Milton Harris, who came in and wanted to build a Christmas village for kids where companies would build their own shops that would give away promotional items to the visitors. But he was followed by Carl Barrett, president of the Chicago Motorists Association, who had a sort of eye towards roadside attractions. Again, the story's a little too long. You can read it in the description. Let's take a look at the actual case here, though. So these bound volumes at the top are appellate court and Supreme Court briefings. So these would be summaries of the case as it occurred in the lower courts that started in the Martin County Court and moved up from there. And then finally, underneath the briefings here, we have the actual court transcript. You might be able to see here at the top the paper binding that the case was originally held together with. Let's see if I can get that. There we go. There, that is there. We removed these pages from the binding a few years ago. It was already falling off in disrepair, as you can tell, but we removed it from the case entirely a few years ago when we did some digitization on the case. So here we have a chronological sort of contents of the transcript, a response to the writ of certiorari, and then finally the full transcript. So the initial part of this is, evidence, filing, so on, and then we get a little deeper and we actually find witness testimony and the question and answer involved in witness testimony. But what's really interesting in here are some of the visual exhibits that have been included in the case. Down here. So these are some photographs of the Candy Castle in construction. Milton Harris's one and only shop that he completed there was the Curtis Candy Castle. Curtis was the maker of Baby Ruth and Butterfinger at the time. The Candy Castle still stands down there. Go a little further. Here is the statue of Santa Claus that Carl Barrett built. Again, also still standing, although it has been heavily restored since that time. And then finally, one of my favorite elements of this case is that it includes the concept art for the various shops that Harris wanted to build in his Santa Claus village. So this is the Daisy Air Rifles Barracks. This is the embossing block, made to look like a children's block. And this is the Lionel Train Depot or Lionel Train Station. They were a maker of model trains at the time. The Feltogram and Lehman Building, and so on. This is the Wyandotte Toys shop there. Milton originally won this case at the Martin, the county court level, and essentially won ownership of the land. When they appealed to the Supreme Court ruled that the Martin Court had overstepped, was correct in its judgment that Barrett had violated the lease, but had overstepped as far as the response. So he did still have to pay a fine. He did still have to honor Milton's lease, but he did not lose the claim to his land. Unfortunately, neither man would really be able to capitalize off of Santa Claus, Indiana. By the time this case resolved, World War II was in swing. And when that ended, shortly after, a toy maker from Vincennes named Louis Koch came into the area. He won the bid to build a new post office just outside of Santa Fe in his Santa Claus land. He renamed that area to be the first official Santa Claus, Indiana. And eventually that became Holiday World. That's all we've got for you today. And we'll have a new record for you next time.